Dolphins fans, welcome into this edition of Dolphins Today. I'm your host, Will Scott, and on this show, we're going to be breaking down some potential trade-up targets in the 2022 NFL Draft next week. But first, let's have some fun and start with some trivia. How many losing seasons did the Dolphins suffer through the 1970s, 80s, and 90s? Stay tuned for later on in the show where I will reveal the answer to this question. Of course, those are the golden years for the Miami Dolphins, so let me know what you think down in the comment section. And, of course, with the draft coming up next week, we're going to be ramping up our draft coverage here on Chat Sports. The Dolphins only have 4 picks in this year's draft. Yes, but we're going to be breaking down every single one of those picks. So now is a great time to subscribe to Dolphins Today. When the Dolphins are on the clock, when they make a pick, we're going to be putting out a video right after they make a selection, breaking down each and every pick the Dolphins make. So hit that big red sub button right now. Well, yesterday in his press conference, Chris Grier said never say never in terms of trading up. So maybe this is a guy the Dolphins could trade up for. Leo Chenal out of Wisconsin, one of the best linebackers in this draft class. It's shocking when I've looked at mock drafts and see him falling to the 3rd round. I mean, this is a first-round talent, and of course, year after year, we're going to see guys fall, and we're going to be scratching our heads a little bit saying, why do they keep falling? This might be one of those guys this year. Take a look at what he did at Wisconsin last season. 8 sacks, 18.5 tackles for loss, nearly 100 tackles on the season. When you watch this guy play, he was clearly the best player on the football field, was the best linebacker in the Big Ten, and for that reason, he is 100% worth trading up for. The Dolphins would likely have to trade early, maybe middle of the 3rd round to get him. Right now, the Dolphins' first selection at pick 102, very late in the 3rd round. I want to trade up for Leo. Let me know what player you want to trade up for down in the comments section. It is the pinned comment on today's video. So when you're hit with an ad break here in a few seconds, go down. Let me know what you think. Let's get into Brian Asamoah out of Oklahoma, who is not as good as Chenal, but is still a very good linebacker in this draft class. He needs to maybe work on his coverage a little bit. He's very athletic, though, great instincts. I don't see him coming in and starting this year, but he is a guy that could come in, be a good backup on this Dolphins defense, and then start in 2023. I don't see him being NFL ready right now. I think he has some things to work on, but still a lot of potential when talking about Brian Asamoah. Here's what a trade might look like to get him, and he's going to be a middle, maybe early 3rd round selection. So I'm going to say the Dolphins have to give up the 3rd round pick they have this year, which is 102nd overall, and a 3rd round pick next year to trade up 20 spots with the Atlanta Falcons to get Asamoah. I don't think there's any chance that he falls to 102. I've seen maybe a few mocks that have him on the board, but very, very unlikely that he falls that far. So let me know what player you would rather trade up for, Leo Chenal or Brian Asamoah out of Oklahoma. For me, it's Leo. You're probably going to have to give up a little bit more to get him, but he is NFL ready right now. So is Breece Hall, I think, who is a running back out of Iowa State. I mean, look, clearly the first 2 running backs off the board are going to be Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State and Breece Hall. Kenneth Walker might be selected before Hall, but for me, Hall is the best running back in this draft class, and he might be an early 2nd round pick. Now, I don't think I would be in favor of trading up for him, 60 to 70 spots up the draft board to get him, because you're going to have to give up a lot for a position that really isn't a huge need right now for Miami. And if you are going to be watching the NFL Draft next week, you need to watch it on Chat Sports. So be sure to subscribe to the Chat Sports main YouTube channel. The sub link is going to be in the comments, in the description. when you get to the later rounds, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, ESPN's not going to be breaking down those picks. We are, though, in Chat Sports. And for us Dolphins fans, we don't have a pick in the first 2 rounds. If you want in-depth analysis on every pick the Dolphins are making, Chat Sports is the place to be. We're going to have a lot, and I mean a lot of fun on draft day. And who might be having some fun in the war room is Chris Grier, if he can somehow pull this trade off for Breece Hall. Here is my proposal. I'm aware that it's aggressive. I'm aware that Chicago might not even be interested in it, but here it is. Dolphins get the 48th overall pick. Hall might not even fall that far, but if he does, maybe the Dolphins can put together a package. So Dolphins get the round 2 Bears pick in addition to a round 6 pick this year. And a reason that I like this deal is because the Dolphins only have 4 draft picks in this year's draft. You would be adding a pick for this year. You'd be giving up your 3rd and 4th round pick this year. And if you trade for Hall, you don't need Myles Gaskin. He was your starting running back this year. If you trade for Hall, he's going to be like your 4th running back behind Hall, Mostert, and Chase Edmonds. So Myles Gaskin, still has a little bit of potential. Give him to Chicago as part of the deal. But I think Breece Hall would be a phenomenal fit with head coach Mike McDaniel. Look at what Mike McDaniel did with that San Francisco 49ers offense last year. They led the league in rushing. He has been, obviously known and revered as a great offensive mind for a long time, but specifically a rushing offense genius, Mike McDaniel. Breece Hall would go to work in a Mike McDaniel offense. And if not for the Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert signings in free agency, I think it would be a no-brainer to trade up for Breece Hall. But you did give up your 1st and 2nd round picks for Tyreek Hill, so you do have to trade up for Breece Hall. But, running back coming into the offseason was a huge need for Miami. It is not as big of a need now, so I would be careful if trying to trade up for, let's say, a Kenneth Walker or a Breece Hall, because you would have to give a lot up to move, let's say, 60 spots in the draft. Is Breece Hall your favorite running back in the draft? For me, I'm typing Y, and I'm typing Y instantly because of how good this guy is. Ran for about 3,000 yards in his last 2 seasons at Iowa State. Abraham Lucas, another trade-up candidate that I have on my list. And a big reason I like him is because of his experience at right tackle. What do the Dolphins not have right now? An experienced right tackle. It's going to be Austin Jackson against Liam Eichenberg for that starting job next year. For me, Austin Jackson, the better option out of those two. But Abraham Lucas, I think, a better option than either of those guys. A 4-year starter, not just on the offensive line, but at right tackle for Washington State. This guy is huge. 6'7". Good luck getting past Abraham Lucas if you're on that Patriots or Jets defensive line. He would be protecting to his blind side, which is obviously extremely important. So here's my trade proposal to the Houston Texans. We've talked about it before with the Texans front office. They're not the brightest people, so we're going to try to lowball them a little bit. To move up 22 spots, all we're going to give them is our 3rd-round pick this year and one of our 3rd-round picks next year. Of course, the Dolphins have a lot of draft capital to give up next year. I think this is a move the Texans might make because they're rebuilding. They're all about adding draft picks for both the present and the future. Let's get into this trivia reveal. You got a few more seconds to let me know your answer in the comments section. The first person that answered correctly, I will give a shout-out to on the next show. Again, the question, before we put it up on the screen, losing seasons for the Dolphins in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. The answer, just 2. How wild is that? Just 2 losing seasons in those 3 decades for the Dolphins. Of course, one of those seasons featured the greatest football team of all time. We saw the Dan Marino era as well. So just 2 losing seasons for the Dolphins. I think we would all love to see the Dolphins get back to that sustained level of success. How do they do it? Maybe adding Troy Andersen to this team, who is my last trade-up candidate for the Miami Dolphins. And we talked about him a few weeks ago, but this is an unbelievable prospect, not just because of what he did at linebacker for Montana State, what he did offensively. I mean, he got all this playing time on offense for a couple seasons, over 1,000 passing yards as a quarterback in 2018. He was second all-time in Montana State history is a rushing touchdowns producer when he didn't even play running back in his senior season last year. He was the 2021 FCS Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, he is the most intriguing prospect in this draft, and I have to imagine a guy like this in a Mike McDaniel offense and on a Mike McDaniel team. I mean, look, Mike is creative. He's arguably one of the more creative coaches in the NFL. Look at what he did with Deebo Samuel last year, creating a wide back position that made Deebo the most versatile player in the National Football League. You could put Troy Andersen in as your starting linebacker and then line him up in some goal line packages on offense. Imagine that. So here's my pitch to the Jaguars. This is aggressive, I know. But the Dolphins do get a 7th-round pick this year, so they would not be losing any draft picks for this year. They would still have 4 picks. So they're going to give up their 3rd-round pick. They're going to give up their 4th-round pick and a 5th-round pick next year to get a 7th-round pick from the Jags and the 65th overall selection, which is the first pick of the 3rd round. Troy Andersen, most of the mocks I've seen have him going late 2nd or early 3rd round. So you're probably going to have to get into that 60 to 70 range to go up and get Troy Andersen. The Jaguars have 2 picks early in the 3rd round. That's why I think they would be open to doing this deal. Well, thanks for tuning in to this edition of Dolphins Today. Please subscribe if you haven't already. This has been your boy, Will Scott. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Go Fins.